Hey, what is up, everyone? So today's video is going to be a story time video. I'm going to be talking about my piercing stories. This kind of came up because recently I just got a new piercing. Maybe I'll get some shots of them. I mean, anyone who knows me knows all of the piercings I have, but anyway. So, where to start with this? Okay, so I'm going to start off with the conch piercing because this was a good experience. This conch piercing right here, the little hoop that I have, is a 14 gauge conch piercing. And I got it in the location I got because I used to have this, like, cartilage piercing right here on the outside. And I had gotten that one from Claire's. And I was educated on it. I was educated that you were not supposed to get piercings with guns because guns don't pierce people, needles do. Okay. So I had at the time had that piercing. I've since taken it out because it got infected. But anyway, so I have this one, and I had gotten it from a tattoo shop, and I forced my friend to go with me. And I feel like that was like my first experience. Maybe my lip piercing was my first one. Wow, I should really be more organized. But anyway, I just have so many piercings and so many piercing experiences. So the reason for this placement of this conch piercing is because of that cartilage piercing that is no longer with us. And it was a really good experience. The woman that I met there, she was all decked out, and her ears were like gauged all the way. And she was really cool. She took me through all of the steps. She was really patient with me. You know, she was amazing. And like, her prices were kind of high. And I guess that's okay, you know, because you kind of get what you pay for, especially with a piercing. And it's like, I couldn't afford the proper gauge for it. So I was like, I have $50. What can you do for me for $50? She was like, for a conch? And I was like, yeah. And she said, well, I can do an 18 gauge post for you. And it was a little bead jewelry. It wasn't like a gem or anything. She was like, it's really plain, and it's definitely not the right gauge for a conch piercing. And I was like, but you'll still be able to pierce me with it, right? And she was like, yeah, we'll do that. And so I paid the $50 because I had 50 even, that was it. And paid that. And she pierced me with an 18 gauge piercing. And if you don't know anything about gauges, the bigger the number, the smaller the diameter is of the piercing. It's really weird, kind of weird. Like 20 gauge is the standard gauge for normal earrings. So if that kind of helps give a little bit of a gauge for it. But so I had that one done like that, and then she said that you could come in and we can punch it. Like it's literally like a hole puncher. You punch your ear for the gauge. Because what happens is when they pierce you with a needle, they take the gauge size above needle, because the needle's hollow, so it literally removes your skin so it can have room for the jewelry to set in. That's why guns are so bad, because they just shove the piercing in there, so you're not making room for the piercing, you're just like, it's not good. But anyway, so just kind of think of it like a hole puncher, because that's essentially what it is, and it's just replacing it with jewelry. So she was like, yeah, you can come in and we can like punch it, it's fine, like it'll work. And I was like, yeah, okay. And she was like, or you can stretch it, and stretch it is like, you know, gauging like your earlobes. And I was like, okay. And so I went the self-gauging route and I got it up to a 14 gauge, which is the standard gauge for a conch piercing. So that experience was really good. She knew what she was talking about, and I'm saying that for a reason. I'm like reviewing all the piercers that I'm talking about. But the thing is I went to go back to her. Like, I called the place that I had gotten it done, and I was like, how much is it for, like, you know, whatever piercing I wanted next? And they were like, yeah, we're currently looking for a piercer right now. I was like, oh. And she kind of like went off on her own, and I had followed her on Instagram, but like she just kind of vanished off of that. Like, I don't know what happened. And the last post I saw of her was her like opening her own shop, which like kudos to her, like that's cool. But I wish I could have like gotten pierced by her for a couple of other times, but oh well, I think it happened for a reason, because the last girl I'm gonna tell you about, yes, my boo. But so we're gonna go over on this ear this time. So I have more piercings on this ear than this ear, and I have this front helix, I think it's called. I don't know, a lot of people call it differently. I have a post in it, you probably can't see it that prominently. And then I also have this one right here. I have this little anti-helix, it is called, maybe. And I also have a scar from a piercing, which you will hear about, which is kind of the overall story here. So that story takes place with Sarah, as you guys have met her on this channel. Me and Sarah went to get piercings together for like the past like 2 Decembers, like Christmases during the break, and one of them was that Claire's piercing. She had gotten this one up, and she's since lost her piercing of that too. So we went to this other place, and so I went in wanting to get my doth, whatever you want to call it. I'm probably gonna call it both. But I wanted to get my daith done, and Sarah wanted to get her tragus done, and she like hadn't had an experience at a tattoo shop getting pierced, so it was her first time there, and I was like, okay, do you want me to go first or do you want to go first? And she was like, you go first, like, which was not a good idea, as you will see. So remember, I want my daith, and if any of you don't know what a daith piercing is, this is a daith piercing. That's a daith piercing. So it is also known as a headache piercing. And it's so cute, and people who get it sometimes get it because it's cute, like I said, or they get it to help their headaches because it supposedly helps your headaches. And I don't know, I thought it was cute. I don't have headache problems, but so she got me all set up, she took me through it, like we signed her stuff, whatever, blah blah blah. And this girl, she was kind of like going like in my ear, you know, kind of taking a while, like not as long as you should. So I was kind of like, okay, alright. And mind you, she isn't really like saying anything. Like the only thing she said, she's like, I just need to get a good angle. That was it. And so she was like kind of like digging in there. Like it kind of like made my ear a little sore. And then she was like, alright, you can do the breathe in thing, whatever. So she pierced it, and then what I heard was a crack and then a waterfall. She pierced it, and it was like blood flow everywhere. It was a mess. And so she was this girl. You can ask her, it's funny. She kept taking cotton swabs and like trying to like absorb it all, like of the blood. And then this girl, this woman, asks me if she wants me for her to shove it in and force it in, and I was like, no, I'm good. She was like, it rejected, blah blah blah, and like telling us her reasons. And at that point in time, I thought if your body was gonna reject a piercing, you wouldn't know until you got pierced. And so I was accepting of it at the time, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever, like that's cool, it happens, whatever. You'll find out later. So then Sarah was kind of scared to do it next, and I was just like, it's okay, like it's whatever. And I was trying to be cool about it. Like looking back on it, I'm like, wow, this piercer, her process was not good. It was just bad. Like I'll get into that when I talk about the third lady that's pierced me, who is like my boo. But so this girl pierced me, she tried, and she was like, okay, is there any other like type of piercing you want? And I was like, yeah, like let me think about it for a second. And she started suggesting things to me, and so I went with the front helix. And so I was like, yeah, that's cool. That happened, and then Sarah got her tragus done, and it was really cute on her. Like I loved it on her. And like I wasn't that much of a fan of mine because it was like the second piercing I wanted. I really wanted the daith, but Alright, so fast forward, and she had some problems with her tragus and ended up losing her tragus. So Sarah and I have both lost, we've gone getting pierced twice, alright? We both lose the first one and she loses the second one. Alright, my next piercing, like these stories are not at all in order. I'm probably telling them like in opposite order of anything, but anyway. So this piercing right here, this end one with this like little horseshoe in it, and my lip piercing were done by the same person, and this person is a friend of mine, and she is, it's not like she's unqualified, she was a piercer in herself. She has the equipment and like, you know, sterile stuff and everything, and she had pierced my lip and she pierced this cartilage one. She pierced this lip in her living room and then pierced this one in my other friend's room, not living room. But yeah, so those were kind of short. Don't have an issue with them. This one's still kind of healing. That's why if it looks a little weird or junky, that's why. But that's where those came from. Okay, now the final story. And remember that Daith story, y'all. Don't let go of that. Fast forward to more recently with my other piercings. Let's see, I got this conch piercing and then the anti-helix. Those are the two that I'm going to talk about now. But the one I'm going to talk about first is going to be the anti-helix, which is beautiful. I love it. But so me and another friend of mine, this is like a few months ago, I guess. I don't really remember. We impulsively went to a tattoo shop for me to get a piercing, and she was like, I don't know, I might get a tattoo, because she impulsively gets tattoos everywhere. Not judging, but so we go to this tattoo piercing place that was like the only one open on a Sunday night, and we went in there and I was like, can I get a nose piercing? And like the tattoo guy was like, yeah, sure, let me go ask her. And she was working with like 2 other girls, and she got a moment, she came up here and she was like, hey, I just wanted to let you know that I don't have any like nose jewelry to pierce with today. Like I ran out, I had a lot of like nose piercing requests recently, and she was like, I don't have any more. And she was like, I'm really sorry, I didn't want you to wait like until I was done with them, you know, just to find out that I couldn't pierce you. And I was like, oh, well, I mean, can you pierce something else? And she was like, well, yeah, like, let's do it. And I was like, I have this other one that I was thinking about getting, and it was this one that I wanted to get. And it was actually one of them that I was supposed to get my friend who pierced my lip and this cartilage to pierce, but we tried doing it, and she didn't have the right supplies for it, so we're like, we're not going to do it, and we ended up doing that one. But anyway. So she was like, oh yeah, well sure, what do you want? And I told her about that, and she was like, yeah, we can totally do that, I have everything for that, and yeah, we'll be with you right after I've finished with them. And so she walked off, and this isn't part of my story, but I'm gonna tell you because her tattoo is beautiful. But my friend who went with me ended up getting a beautiful tattoo of her 2 cats. Maybe if I can get a picture from her, I'll insert it somewhere in here. But I love that tattoo. It's one of my favorite ones from her, on her, not from her. She didn't do it herself. But so we finally get to go to the piercer, and she finally finished with the other group. And mind you, I told her my Daith story because we were just talking about piercings, and I'm just in love with piercings. And I told her the place name, and she was like, that's funny, that's the second time I've heard that name, like that place. And she was like, those girls I just left had a horror story there too. And I was like, seriously, really? And then I also told her Sarah's story, how she had hers get rejected, and she was like, yeah, it's probably because she didn't look at your ears and examine it. And I was like, what? She was like, yeah, I'm gonna show you something. And she showed me this diagram of how the ear shape is supposed to look for a Daith to fit. And then she showed me what an ear is not supposed to look like. And she was like, your ear looks like this one. And any piercer in their right mind would not pierce an ear that looks like that. She was like, yeah, there's a little scar on your ear because someone did not look at your ear. So, looking back on that Daith story, it's crazy to me. Like, and then it makes me think about like, what are the qualifications for a piercer? You know, like what are their qualifications to become a piercer at a tattoo shop? Like, do I just need to have a bunch of piercings to do that? Like, do I go through some kind of training? Like, and if so, where do I get this training? Like, it's crazy to me. Like, and she did me like a huge favor, and she like looked at my ears, and she was like, she was another person that had told me that like, or she was the person that told me that like I have a nice cusp of cartilage to get ears pierced, like ear piercings up there. And she was telling me all this stuff. She looked at my tragus, she was like, you probably can't get your tragus pierced because it's kind of small. And she was like debunking like all these other piercings that I wanted to get. I was just like, if me and my friend would have never impulsively gone there on a Sunday night, like who knows what kind of like wacko piercings I could have tried to get, but my body tried to reject it. This girl, her like Instagram is Piercing Mama, if you want to check her out. Alright, that completes this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm trying different content, so kind of bear with me, I guess. Well, don't forget to like and subscribe and to share, to maybe leave comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see y'all next time. Bye. Goodbye.